All right, so we are good on recording now. Let me know if you see the screen.
We do.
Okay. So tell me, what question do we have around schedules at the moment?
How do I put in employee schedules and how do I change what we have there for schedules?
Okay. So currently, if you talk about schedules, the schedule that applies to anybody is going to sit in the employee profile. So if you go to employees, right, open up any
Right.
employee, you have the schedule right there. This section, that's your schedule. Now, what you have to do is number one, if you need to change an existing schedule, that's also possible. But before we go there, you have to make sure that the right time zone is assigned, right? And based on the working hours, there is also a time zone in the working hours as well. So if there is a cross contempt, you can say that the time zone, the working schedule you have is for the mountain time, but the employee, if they are sitting in any other time zone, right, based on this selection right here, their time will be considered. So let's say for me, mountain time is 11 hours behind. So if you say my schedule is mountain time, but my selection here is based on Pakistan time, then my hours, let's say, will be, if you set my schedule to from 8 to 4 in the evening, then essentially what I'm working through is from 7 in the evening to 3 after midnight. So that's what it's going to be like. But essentially, good thing for you, most of your employees are in mountain time, correct?
Yes, all of our employees are in Mountain Time.
So it won't really be an issue with you unless there is somebody else who's going out to a different time zone or working from a different time zone. So essentially, we can consider this to be our thing. At the moment, you can remove the company. So let's say if we have to remove this, if you need to design a completely new time zone basis schedule, that's also possible. So you can say 40 hours mountain time, right? You click create and edit. And with this, Odoo will automatically give you the times for the 40 hours in the start, in the beginning. Then on the basis of this, the name you define here is can be anything, right? So right now it has Monday morning, Monday evening, Tuesday and Wednesday, and all the way through. You can add more days into this thing to make sure you're getting the whole 5 days covered. In this process, day of the week is a predefined selection, right? All 7 days in the selection, and the period could be morning and afternoon. But if you say that there is only a straightforward time, so considering that we say for, for every day in the list, we need the employee to work through 8 to 4, and that is going to be 12, 13, 14, 16, and that can go in this direction. Now they're required to be in the office from this time to this time. And then in here, you can define work entry type right now just as attendance because there is no other thing required at the moment. If you had been using the payroll module, there could be more entry types as well, like the break entry time or maybe um, lunchtime or something else. But right now, attendance is the only thing. Then you go in and then this is done for Monday. And then we go in and we say the same thing for Tuesday, right? Just have to make a selection. Then from 8 to 16.
So in the case of, for example, in my sales department, everyone has a different schedule. Instead of putting
Hmm.
40 hours mountain time, could I just put their name, Maria, Sophia, and
That
put
could
their
go.
schedule in?
That could go.
Okay.
Right. So, and one, because right now you're setting it per employee basis, but it's also possible to have this thing. I'll go ahead and go back and into the list. So a schedule, if you search for working schedule, you won't find anything right away, but it is possible to go through the whole list as well. You won't find it in the employee module because this is a background thing that's not usually changed too much. So this is why if we go in, you can set it up based on the debug mode being activated. Tracy, you're there, so you already know what the debug mode does. So if you
Yeah.
search for the working times now, you see it's sitting in the technical resource working times. And in here, there is a lot of structures already created. So you see 410s. I'm not sure if this was done somewhere in the past, but then there is a Monday to Wednesday schedule that's there, which is exactly what was being picked on the other schedule. Now, if you want to create a new schedule, you can go ahead and create another schedule. So Maria, and then add the times and apply it to them. Once this is done, their attendance will then be cross-referenced against this. Not checked 100% as if they were supposed to be in this time, but their attendance will be cross-checked against this the same way all the attendance situations work. There is one more thing though. So if you say sales, in this situation, if you want to see if this whole thing needs to be, this whole schedule needs to apply to a specific people, then you can say this is my department where it needs to apply. Pick this up and then apply a same schedule if needed to all of them all at once. So this way you'll be able to use the export and import functionality to get it in place. That's also possible, auto applying the whole thing all at the same time. But this will have to be a one-off thing. How often do we have that these working schedules change? I am hoping not a lot.
Um, it depends. In my world, it's been more frequent than I prefer, but that's because we've had some turnover and rearranging, and we're going to be hiring again.
Hmm.
Once they get set, then usually it's just little blips, like someone's trading one day for another because they have an appointment or something. It's usually not anything major.
Normally, the process, I'm not going through the settings menu not a lot because if you talk about the mass update process, it's possible to mass update all of them at the same time. So let's say if somebody's working through the Monday to Wednesday schedule and you make a mass change to this and create a new one, you can just go into the work resources and find all of the people that follow this schedule and select them and update to something new.
But does just about everyone in production have the same
Everybody in
schedule?
production has 8 to 4, with the exception of 2 people.
So that'll be easy
So,
for
yeah.
you. You can make one
I can make-
production schedule and assign all but those two to it and then separate them out.
Right.
Okay. Yeah,
Now,
it's hard when you're open 9-hour days and you need 8-hour work days for the employees. So I don't have any two people on the same schedule in my world.
right, I can understand why that could be an issue for you. Normally, what I've seen people do is they just keep a little break in the middle. But why can't we do that, Tracy? Just keep a
Because we
break in the middle.
pay our lunches. The only time you're not paid for lunch is if you leave the building. So you work through lunch. You might get to sit in the break room, but you still have your headset and answer calls.
Mhm.
But you get paid through that unless you actually leave, and then you clock out when you leave and you clock in when you get back.
So why do you think it could be considering that you need you need a number of hours recorded for each employee every day, right? Setting the schedule will not get in the way. So you can set the schedule to be 8 to 4, right? With an hour of a break in the middle, right? It will calculate the number of hours required from them. Then on the basis of that, you will be able to find the number of hours worked in the actual reporting for each employee each day. Wouldn't that be okay? And I'm seeing an issue
I
here
mean,
as well.
we don't have scheduled break times. Like they take breaks when
Hmm.
it's calm enough to in sales, or when, for example, in production, they finish a process, they can go take a break. So it isn't always by a clock. It's by workload when they take their break.
Right. And
So,
that's not a problem, right? You will just cross-reference the number of worked hours against their schedule. It's not getting in the way. That's what I'm saying.
but it
So you
seems
need
like
8 hours.
extra work to put it in there if we're not gonna use it.
Makes complete sense. So you can just skip the whole thing and set the schedule to be 9 hours.
Well,
9 hours as in,
they're only here 8.
We have some people that do 8-hour days, we have some people that do 9 hour days, some people do 10-hour days.
Yeah. It isn't.
so what do
the
you
same
think is the
for
preferred way to go in this situation?
We'll just have multiple schedules, so we'll have a schedule for most of production, other than 2
Hmm.
people whose schedules are different, and then those will just have a schedule that's their name. So Maria, I'll put in her schedule under Maria, Sophia's will go in under Sophia, and then when they change, I just go in and edit the one that's changing.
Makes complete sense. You can go in that direction, but how many schedules do you think you'll be making in the process? 10, 15? I'm thinking about the possibility of mass changing in the future.
And the 2 in production, does shipping all work the same?
No.
So with sales and production, we have 6. I'm not counting myself because I don't know if you want my name there or not.
Under marketing. So yeah, if we did like 15, what were you talking about?
So
With
considering that if the schedules, because let me give you an example as to why I'm starting this conversation here. In Pakistan, we do have times where there is mass changes to the schedules, and if we have a big number of lists, there is a huge list of schedules that are in the list. Changing each one of them could become a problem every time it needs to change. So how many schedules you have in the list kind of makes more work down the road if it needs to be changed. So there is really two considerations. How many you're planning to make and how often do you see them changing? The
They,
schedules, not the people.
we don't do mass schedule changes very often. That's very rare. We more frequently have individual schedule changes than mass ones.
Okay. In that event, I think we should be able to do this thing. So let's say we go back to employees and we pick Maria right now. This is the current schedule that's there. I'll just go ahead and skip the whole thing. Maria, sales. Go ahead, I'm listening.
45 to 3 p.m., so 1500.
Okay. What was the start time?
7:45.
Monday morning. 07:45.
To 1500.
And the time zone on this is going to be US Mountain.
Yep.
Okay. So this tells me 7 hours and 15 minutes total.
Yep, for that day.
Okay.
Tuesdays are 7:45 to 1700.
Okay. All right. I'm doing this on staging right now so we can create a full example and then maybe you can follow the same example on production. What's Wednesdays?
Wednesday is 7:45 to 12 noon. And then Thursday and Friday look just like Tuesday.
Okay, just like Tuesday means
So
1700
17.
hours.
Yep.
Thursday and Friday.
That's just. We don't have Sophia back till Thursday this week, so.
All right. So in this situation, their average hours per day is being calculated all the while we are at it. So their average hours actually become 7 hours and 51 minutes average out
Mhm.
across multiple days. Now, Monday is there, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from this time to this time. Now, if I save this right now, you have the schedule edit and out in time. I'll go next into the attendance report and add a few attendance entries for her to see what it shows. Now, attendance, create Maria Jones. And today she came in at 7:45 means 6:45 our time. And considering that if she leaves at the same time she is required to leave, which is 1500 hours, which is going to be 21st and 2.
So you have her starting on the 20th and leaving on the 21st and working all night?
I'm trying to do this thing according to my time zone because the
Oh,
browser knows my time zone, so it will take that time zone into consideration. So instead of
yeah.
this being 6:45, this will be 6:45 in the evening. So that is going to be 18:45. That way, this comes down to be 7 hours and 15 minutes, which is the time required for her to be in the office at that date, right? Now, if I open up reporting, and only look at Maria, we should be able to see the reflection of the whole thing in the reporting as well. Maria Jones is going to show up. And if we apply the filter for the check-in to be only in June. Okay, so 20th of June, no hours worked extra, right? Because this is matching the schedule exactly. Now, if we change this time into an hour ahead, oh, this is where the problem is. Um, I'm doing it in 2 different dates, so it's considering that I came in on a different day and left on a different date.
Mhm.
Mm, 20th, 645 to 1500 hours. Right. So back to 715. And then if I extend an hour from here, still doesn't show me the extra hours. Let me see if we have any leverage added into this thing. On refresh. Because there is a setting for considering time in favor of the company and allowing the employee to take some time in their favor as well. So let me check if that configuration is set up right. By the way, what is your method of getting the attendances? Have you been using a kiosk?
They use Odoo right now.
Production and cafe use a kiosk type setting, and everybody else uses a regular computer at their desk when they log into Odoo.
Count extra hours. Start from this. So tolerance time in favor of company and time period in favor of employee. If you tell me these settings right now, I'll be able to set them up on production as well, the production database, because this is supposed to be activated once off, and I'll select the date for today where it gets started. Now, can
What do
you tell
mean
me if there is
time is, I mean, we have to pay them for the hours they're here. We don't get to reduce their check or, say they're not gonna get paid for time they worked.
this is about the extra hours. Extra hours as in if Maria was supposed to be here for 7 hours 15 minutes today, if she spends 8 hours 30 minutes, is that going to be paid
He
to
gets
her as
paid
well?
8 hours, 30 minutes.
Okay. So nothing in favor of the employee and nothing in favor of the. All right, makes complete sense. Let's save this and go back to the attendance.
Is that where it's like if they clock in, it's rounded up to the nearest or rounded down to the nearest?
No, this
Oh.
is going to capture the exact times, but at the same time will give you. You see, this is the place where it gives you the extra hours calculated. So if Maria was supposed to be in for 7 hours 15 minutes, this is going to be a comparative analysis as to if she spends an hour additional, right,
Okay.
in favor of the company, and if you need to let that not be calculated in here, you can control the second settings in the back end. In the long run, if you take a look at a week, so Maria is supposed to be in the office for 7 hours 15 minutes today, 8 hours tomorrow, 8 hours the day after, and then 7 hours 15 minutes, just for an example. The
Right.
total number of hours required from her should be 40, right? In essence, considering that when you take a look at the hours, if you see 40 hours total here, and then some days she works extra, some days she worked less, it can get rounded down to the right number based on this reporting. But per day basis, when you find the reporting, there you'll be able to see where she worked extra, where she worked less. This is what it's supposed to be doing.
Is it going to include her paid time off in its calculation?
In this factor, no.
Okay,
The attendance is completely aside from that. When you start using payroll or something around the calculation of their times for the payments, yes, it will consider. So that like in the timesheets factor, yes, the timesheets will consider time offs. The payroll, that will also consider time off as well.
So if we use timesheets, it would show their attendance and their time offs all on one page?
No.
Okay.
Timesheets is supposed to be for project costing. But yes, payroll essentially can show you how much time they were supposed to be working and if they took any times off. The attendance itself is just a record of them being in the building.
Right, but we track that to see were they late, did they leave early, were they out? I mean, that's all part of attendance.
Yes.
So I was curious if it would show that on here or if that gets counted on the hours not worked or extra worked or what have you on that second column.
No, it won't. The extra hours won't be considered based on the factor of the time offs. The time offs are completely separate. The attendance is completely separate when they're used together somewhere, as if in the payroll or the timesheets module, where it shows up that information, not combined essentially, but in a different context. So if I talk about timesheets, I'm not sure if we even have. Oh yeah, we do have it installed. Let me show you that. So considering that if you take a look at the timesheet versus attendance is a report that tells you how many hours they were there, right, for each employee, how many hours they were there, and then how much time do they have the timesheet for. And the timesheet essentially also considers the time offs as well. So you can consider each time off type to be an entry on the timesheets automatically. That's an activation thing that can happen on the time off settings. So each time off, you can say that it automatically posts to, let's say we pick this one up, plan time off. And then in here, we can say that it goes to this project and the task is going to be time off. It gets added on the other side. Every time somebody applies for a time off, they're automatically considered. That way you have costing for that employee going to the time off project. That's the whole factor. Not supposed to be used for the use case you have. You will have the attendance report and the time off report coming in from two different places because they need to be combined somewhere, and that somewhere is not being used at the moment. It could be payroll or it could be the timesheets.
Okay, so but it doesn't really track tardies or leave early or that kind of thing then.
No, those rules, the attendance module isn't supposed to be doing that right off the bat. We have had these kind of questions come up before. So the tardies and leaving early or coming in late, all of these things and the policies around those things. Some companies have this policy of if an employee comes in 5 times late by the margin of 30 minutes, they are going to get a day off on their payroll for this reason. Right? These are the possibilities that other companies usually go around and set up. But Odoo, since its attendance module is only supposed to be a track of how much time you have spent within the company and not around those policies, it is not going to be that factor here. There is a possibility of when you start using payroll, because there is no cost calculation here anywhere, right? There is no cost calculation right off the bat. Of course, you do have per hour cost of each employee in the employee profile, but there is no use of that information in the attendance module. So essentially not required here. This is just for the hour calculation for the employee when they were in the
So
building.
what is the point of putting in their schedule if it doesn't compare their hours worked to their schedule?
It's nice to have, I need a schedule for when I do payroll to know what they're supposed to be for holiday pay.
Oh,
And it's nice that somebody's like, what time does this person come in? And you're not here, and you have no clue what time Maria's supposed to be here.
okay. I just didn't know how it incorporated with the other attendance info if it wasn't looking at whether or not they were on time or worked their scheduled shift.
$7.45 is what I'll take. And on the same date, we'll take Mhm. 3. The thing that we're trying to do here, is there even a use for that in your work scenarios? Angie, is there time calculation for overtimes that you do?
I do it when I do their time cards. We just pull all the information, import it into a spreadsheet, and figure it out.
So do you
The
think the extra hours configuration will help you in any way if we start making that happen on the production server? If the employee is supposed to be coming in at and then X time on the clock and then leaving it at an X time, that time duration is basically the number of hours required. Anything over will go into the extra hours.
does it? Do we have a way to accrue the hour? So does it accrue it by day on the extra hours, or by week, or by month? Like, how is it accruing it?
That's the thing. It does it by each entry. But in the reporting section, let's say you check for an employee and you check for their attendance for the duration of for the duration of June, you'll see the hours worked for June, or you could do it by per week basis. This is where I was coming to. So instead of check-in being in June, you go and say check-in is between this date to this date, and then you can apply and see how much. So they were supposed to be working for 40 hours, but right now I can see that Maria worked for 49 hours and 14 minutes on the clock. Then you can say, show me each day. So this entry right here seems like a wrong entry, 2357, right? You go in and make an adjustment to this, but at the same time, you'll be seeing the total details. So you can group it on the basis of any number of factors you want. So if it applies per day basis, there could be an extra hour consideration here, but a negative extra hour consideration here.
I think it would be useful if you could look at a report of people with extra hours just to see who's getting them regularly.
No, I think that's great. Thank you.
So I'll go ahead and activate that. The extra hour settings is supposed to be from the day forward, because when you activate that, it asks you what date to take in consideration, right?
Okay.
So it compares based on whatever working hours are set on the employee. I'll start making it active, but then when you fix in your schedules around the employees, that's when it actually starts working. So just make sure that you have this set up. This is basically really very simple. The attendance module is not that big of a mess by itself. Just the time tracking of employees coming in and going out. Simple as that. And the only reason why I can see you setting up working schedules is to track this exact thing. How many hours they were supposed to be working, how many hours did they work exactly on a day based on the comparative analysis from their schedule. And this extra hour thing will give you that, just that. So I'll go activate this on production, start setting up schedules, and let me know if you need any help. Just to recap on what we have discussed around the access, there is two ways you can get to the schedules. Go to employee, right? If you need per employee basis schedule, you can create it directly from here on the employee settings in the working schedule section. Let me also verify if you guys already have access, because this is usually limited to a specific role.
Or we can just search that working hours working times and create them in there, right?
You have to have your settings access in order to make that happen. So Tracy, you will be able to do that if you have the settings access, but Angie could not possibly have, I think she doesn't have the access at the moment, so she might not be able to see that.
So what do I need to do to get the access?
Let me see, settings, users. I'll verify if you have access right now.
Are you in the noon call for us? Or am I meeting with someone else?
The CRM? Yes, you're there on the new call.
Is that with you?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna go find out who all's in that and which laptop we're using and get that set up, okay?
This one's just you, so
Oh,
yeah.
just me?
But
All right,
yeah,
that's not a big deal, then I can go open my computer when I get back to my desk. I'm in
sure,
Angie's office right now.
sure. Get there, and by the time you get there, I'll be able to verify this for Angie, and then get
Okay,
this call away.
thank you.
Angie, you don't have access right now the way it seems, so you'll be able to ask Eli. He can give you access to the settings, and with the settings, he can also tell you. Just give him this keyword of debug, where you will be able to enable that and access the working times. Without that, you can't access the working times for the most part. So just make sure that you ask Eli for these two things: access to settings and the working time settings. After you're done adding the schedules, he can take it away. You won't have the need moving forward.
Okay. So
I don't think
then,
anything else. Go ahead.
so then when somebody's schedule changes, do I have to
No,
get Eli to give me access each time?
no, because this is the first time you might need access to the whole list. And as you move forward, essentially you'll have all the schedules created, so you can just skip to the employee's profile and change
And
it
just
from there.
Okay. All
That
right,
should be
thank
okay.
you.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Bye.